Hi, Alan Shimel, DevOps.com, live on the expo floor at IBM InterConnect. And I'm here with Topo Pal, and I probably mispronounced that. Why don't you tell them how we pronounce it so I don't mess up?
Topo Pal.
Topo Pal. Topo is with Capital One, and I've actually seen you speak now 3 or 4 times. And he's an amazing person in that he really transformed the culture and the way of doing business at Capital One, not only around DevOps, but around security and around open source, open enterprise as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As we spoke about Topo, I wanted to concentrate on 2 specific areas. The first is around some called DevSecOps, some called SecDevOps, some called rugged DevOps. But what I'm really talking about is DevOps and security working together.
Right.
We're starting to see that more and more. I'm wondering, and you've had a lot to do with it, what do you see and as what we can do to do better?
Right. I mean, starting from the get-go, DevOps made absolute sense to us because it's all about speed and quality. But being a bank and especially in the area that we are in, security is number one for us. I mean, we cannot get our guards down in favor of speed only. So from day one, when we started talking about continuous delivery and continuous integration and all that DevOps related things, we started considering how do I put security into the mix so that we do not have to go all the way to pre-production and then run all the security scan and find defects and come back and redo the whole thing. We wanted to embed security at every step in the process so that everybody is aware of what's going on as far as the security aspects of your delivery pipeline is.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, we catch problems early on so that we can react to it faster and not wait until the
Absolutely.
end. And you want to make sure that everybody is following certain standard policies across the enterprise that are determined by the security team. And they are, instead of manually being enforced upon, they are programmatically or systematically embedded into the pipeline. It's like a zero-touch thing.
Yeah. So, Topo, when I've seen you talk about this, as I said earlier, for years, but it's now become very much a given, right? Where it was when you first started, people were kind of looking at you, wait a second, you're a bank. You can't be going fast. We have compliance to worry about. We have all of these things to deal with. But now it's becoming more and more just part of the landscape, isn't it?
It is.
The norm.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not saying that we are perfect, but we know where to go, and we'll get there.
Yes.
We'll never be done, actually.
DevOps is never done, for that matter.
Right.
Neither is security.
Right.
Development or anything else. When you're done, you die.
Right.
Let me shift gears a little bit. Another thing that you are very well known and respected in the industry about is open source and open technologies, open enterprise.
Right.
And again, a bank releasing code, giving away that, this is our special sauce.
Right.
I would imagine there was some discussions at an executive level at Capital One around that.
Absolutely. I mean, there has been some culture change that is happening within Capital One itself over the last 4 or 5 years. But the whole thing came from kind of our DevOps movement. When we started using more and more toolings around DevOps, we discovered that some of the toolings have deficiencies. Some of the libraries that are using have bugs. Now, do I wait for somebody else to fix that bug or fix it ourselves? Problem with fixing it ourselves and not giving it back to the open source is now we are stale. We are like a snapshot in time where
you're forked.
I'm forked. I don't want to make that happen. So the whole idea started from there, and it's kind of extension of that whole mindset change is that, all right, now we are contributing to some well-known open source projects. Can we have our own open source project published in the marketplace? Now, it's not a big shift, but think about it. You need a lot of executive support to make that happen. And we are not actually delivering some of our secret sauce. These are open source DevOps tools. There is no banking involved in it. It's the same set of tools that Target uses, Nordstrom uses, Capital One obviously uses. So that's the idea that it's not a secret sauce that we live and build our
right, that you're going to build it on.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we are doing DevOps. That doesn't mean we know everything about DevOps. The main thing about DevOps is learning from others,
Right. I think
and
that's a major piece of
that's a
it.
major piece of it. And when you go out and release our product in the open source market, we actually learned a lot, whole lot more than we used to know, so that we
Hmm.
can take those practices back to our own organization and make ourselves more enriched.
Excellent. So, Topol, so Capital One has contributed to open source projects, created your own open source projects. Beyond the code, though, you hit on something that I think is key, and that is DevOps is about sharing, intercompany and intra-company as a community. We are all better when we share.
Right.
And some people may say that's socialism in today's presidential election
Well, it's
cycle.
called social coding.
Like social coding, exactly. But again, it's more than code, is I guess the point I'm trying to make. It's more
Right.
than bits and bytes.
Right. Right.
It's a culture of sharing.
Right. So as I said, in open source is a way to share things with the external world, but
Hmm.
internally to mature in DevOps, sharing ideas and thoughts and patterns and technology and tools is utterly important for us. So for that, we have developed community of practices. We hold hackathons within Capital
Hmm.
One to the extent that we actually had our first software engineering conference within Capital One.
Really?
And think about the effort that goes into making that happen with about 1,200 Capital One engineering taking part in that conference, and also commitment from the leadership. So we had the conference for 2 days. So 1,200 people for 2 days came from all over the branches and joined us in Richmond. There's a cost involved, time commitment involved, and we get that from our leadership, which is pretty awesome. And in that conference, not only people share their tool set or their success during presentation, they also have expos.
Yeah.
And just like this expos in a lot lesser scale, but the whole idea is you don't bring in vendors for your expos. You have your own engineering team table and show off what you have
And
internally.
that's it. I've been to some internal ones, not at Capital One and others. It's an amazing thing. Topo, I spent about 15 years in the security business. And I would say the number one thing I heard from security people is, how do I get my executives to buy into this? I've been in the DevOps realm now for 4 years, 4.5 years. Number one thing I hear from DevOps, developers and ops, non-managers, is we need executive support. We need executive buy-in. How do I get that? You seem to have, in spades, been able to.
Right.
What do
So
you attribute that to?
so there are two approaches, right? And I think neither works. One is top-down
Down?
approach, and one is bottom-up.
Right.
I think in the DevOps sense, it has to be like both ways.
You have to come from both ends.
Both ways. Now, can the executives then suddenly say we are going agile and DevOps? That's not going to happen. I think in a smaller scale, if we can prove it out and show it to the executives that this really works, and get buying in from your delivery team, ops team, QA team, security team, compliance team, risk management office, this look good? And they say, yeah, that looks good. Okay, can we go to the second team? And that way we expand. After a while, the executives see value in that.
Right.
And then they say, all right, everybody, let's go.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. I would wish everyone would have it as easy as you just described it, but you're living proof if it happens. And you know what? You're an inspiration to a lot of people, both in the security world, the DevOps world, and the open source world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Really
appearing
appreciate
today.
it.
This is Alan Shimel with Topo Pal from Capital One for DevOps.com at IBM InterConnect.